Welcome to Texas Talk on the Texas Insider Network, where we bring you the voices of Texas straight to your iPhone, to your computer, and to any social media avenue throughout the state of Texas.
And as we say, it's from the corner of the Austin Capitol to any corner of the state. We want to give you a voice because your voice is very important and we want to hear from you.
And we want you to participate. This is obviously a new platform for all of us, and your participation is absolutely imperative.
Want to say something about politics, something about cultural issues, social issues? This is the platform.
Let us know, and we'll take your comments to the next interview.
Today we're going to be talking with a very creative mind out of Dallas, Texas, Vinny Minchillo, who has been a participant of 2 presidential races, many governor's races, and lots and lots of local races here in the state of Texas. And he has great ideas and advice to candidates. Kind of be yourself and stop trying to act another person. Okay, now we're with Vinny Minchillo. He's live from I would say the Green Room or the Green Studio in Dallas. Hey, boss, how are ya?
Great. How are you, Cesar?
Hey, Vinny, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So we had a few questions for one of the best creative minds in the state, and I guess we'll start with the serious questions.
Well, I guess one of the serious questions, obviously, tell us a few of the candidates that you've worked with over the past few years, and what are some of the good things, bad things that you see, especially what about some of the candidates that continue to do the same mistakes over and over? If I'm a candidate for statewide office, what are some of the things that you would suggest to steer clear from?
Well, I think, the number one thing for a candidate is to be themselves. I think, when you see a candidate who tries to be something they're not, when they're inauthentic, people can sniff that out right away. Right. And I had an opportunity to work with a lot of great candidates over the years, and John Thune comes to mind. And John Thune is, he's the senator from South Dakota, and he's the same guy on TV, he's the same guy on the news, he's the same guy when you meet him. He's a very, very authentic. And I think when candidates get in trouble, they get in trouble with trying to be something they're not, be something they've seen on TV, be a character. And they just have to be true to themselves because people will sniff that out. And it's really interesting because in my business, we're putting candidates on web videos, putting candidates on TV commercials, and it's important for the voters to see them.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean that all the candidates are really great actors. And so sometimes you have to have that talk with them that, maybe you don't belong in every one of your commercials.
So it's actually cut a little bit of the West Wing and be more real?
Well, I tell you, on West Wing, I think is kind of a problem, to be honest with you. Candidates watch the West Wing and they watch House of Cards and they go, well, I could be that guy. Well, maybe you can't. So that's always really tough. But to me, what I try to do is rather than try to put some kind of a brand or kind of image onto a candidate, try to make that come out of who they are, come out of their personality, and that's hard. It's really difficult.
Yeah, and question, on which do you think on the races you have worked in different parts of the country, on the presidentials and on the gubernatorials and state races, who has been the one that has followed procedure the best? And you go hey, you give advice and say, hey, they follow, is there someone like that out there?
No, that's a load.
Do any of them take advice?
You know what? They all take it. They all, I should figure out how to say this in the right way. John Thune was really great. He was really great on camera, and he would take acting advice, and he did a great job. Worked with a candidate in Mississippi. You probably never heard of him. He's the Secretary of State. His name is Delbert Hosemann. Very nice guy, very smart guy, great guy. Terrible actor. Terrible actor.
Delbert is not a very good actor's name, I would say.
He's not. He's a great guy. So we did a commercial where Delbert really just has one line, and there's an actor next to him. And the actor says all the lines, and then Delbert just has a little rejoinder. And that commercial was one of the most successful commercials ever in Mississippi politics. We had an actor next to him, and she called him by the wrong name over and over. Engelbert, Egbert, Gilbert, all these weird names. And he just kept saying, no, ma'am, my name is Delbert. And so it was a great name ID ad for him, and that was hard for him to do because it wasn't your typical political ad. It's tough. It's hard.
Yeah, there's no question that it's hard, and we have campaign season is approaching, as you know.
It's here already.
Yeah, you're right. It's here already, and there's a lot of activity here in the state of Texas. Announced candidates for governor, announced candidates for lieutenant governor, comptroller. It's just really a big pile of candidates that are looking for higher office and shifting around. And if I'm a statewide candidate, what do you think would be the top 3 items that you would suggest some of these guys to take a look at as far as connecting not only with the regular Republican voter, but really especially the Latino voter?
I'd say this in Texas here. This is a cycle that we've all waited for many, many years.
Right.
The dominoes have finally fallen. People are moving up, moving over. So we've got there's a lot of action in our state, which is the first time in a long time we've had this action. But I think there's some traps that people need to watch out for statewide candidates. And in the interest of full disclosure, I am working with Jerry Patterson for lieutenant governor, and I think you've got some interesting things going on. You're going to have 12, maybe 13 or 14 statewide candidates who will be very well funded. So they're going to have $1 million to many, many millions. So this sounds obvious, but the first thing is make sure you raise enough money and make sure you spend it well. So I think that's really important. And then if you go down one more level and look at state Senate and state House races, you're going to have a ton more people, and some of these races are going to get into some really, really big money. But from an image point of view, I think there's a real danger here of looking the same. And I can't tell you how many come and take it flags I've seen on candidates' Facebook page running anything from city council up to governor. And so, I think voters are going to be confused. We've got a lot of competitive races, a lot of good candidates, but a lot of candidates saying the exact same things. Mm-hmm. We've got to find a way to stick out from that crowd. Right. And I think people are going to struggle to not only remember your name, they're going to struggle to remember your office.
Yeah, unless your name is Dilbert, if not, you're in trouble, I would say. Question.
Exactly. And that was it. We did that because it was a crowded ballot, and we had to drive that name ID. So I think my counsel to a statewide candidate would be find something that sets you apart, that makes you different and memorable.
And question, Vinny, do you think social media, in fact, where we're at right now, will actually help a lot of these smaller races or even the big races? Because nowadays it's still TV king, perhaps on the primaries, but social media will change things?
You know what? I kind of see it the other way around. I think social media is really an important part of the primaries, because that's where our people are, and our most active voters and the people who are really engaged, our 10 out of 10 voters, our 4 out of 4 voters, they are on social media and they are actively looking for information. So, here in Texas, there's a pretty darn good battle going on right today on Facebook and Twitter. So I think TV, these races are starting earlier and earlier. The battle right now is in social media, and then that battle won't move to TV until the end. And that's where we get our less intense voters. So,
do you think there's going to be web debates? I mean, we're going to go as far as literally just having a lot more of the race happening here online?
Exactly.
I think so. I think so, and it's a fun place to play, especially for insiders, and it's a great time to be a person who loves politics because you can be more involved with your chosen campaign than ever before, and you don't even have to get off the couch. So it's a great time to be a fan of politics. Now, I think what we'll see is we're going to start seeing our first social media mistakes.
Right.
And I think we're going to some people step in the bear trap and make some mistakes on social media. We'll see how that plays out. It's dangerous. It really is.
Yeah, there's no question, Vinny, that I think we're seeing more and more, especially the millennials, the younger crowd voter that wants to that may not go to the 5 o'clock news anymore, the traditional media like some of us, and look at ways to, I want my news right now on my handheld, and I want to get the scoop. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, is that I think that this is an absolute medium that addresses a voter in a constituency that has been underserved in the past. So I couldn't agree with you more.
And question, how can we, without revealing all the secrets, of course, how can a candidate be more creative? I mean, if you say, hey, and you know, creativity nowadays, I mean, it's people really are disconnected. Right. And you mentioned this a lot, even on your website. You mentioned that people are disconnected from political advertising and communications.
Right.
How can we connect? What are the keys to do this?
Well, I tell you, and this is going to get me kicked out of the American Association of Political Consultants one of these days. But a lot of folks who are in our business are just flat out lazy. They look at the ads that they ran in 1996 and 2002 and they figure that's just the way to do it. Now the problem is, you've been in the focus groups, I've been in the focus groups. When you reveal to the crowd that you are talking about political advertising, the people just, they physically
they turn off.
I mean, we have trained them for 50 years to hate political advertising, so it's our own fault. So here's the thing: we've just got to do better. We have to take some chances. What you think is a political commercial, if you produce a commercial like that, it's wrong. That's what I tell people, and especially when you get into the negative ads, when you get into the ugly picture of the candidate and the red type and the black and the music, and people hate that. People hate it. It's insulting to them. And I'll give you a good example of a negative ad that works. For a long time, there was a campaign that started off with two guys on a white screen, and one said, "Hi, I'm a Mac and I'm a PC." We all remember those commercials. They were very funny. But I'd encourage you to go back and look at them, because they're mean attack ads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but they're served up in a way that's respectful of the audience. We can learn some lessons from that. We just have to be better and stop being lazy.
Interesting. And what do you think is the PC candidate in this race and the Mac candidate? We're going to have a lot of those. So who will be PC, who will be Mac?
That's a good question.
Well, you know what? You have to be who you are. You have to be authentic to yourself. So if you're a real button-down candidate and that's who you are, well, then be that guy. That's the hard part. Everyone thinks a political ad is, here's the guy and he's standing by the picket, the barbed wire fence, and the camera talks to him. Well, if you're not like for me, if I was running for office and you put me by a barbed wire fence on a ranch, it'd be ridiculous. That's not me. So it's got to be authentic to who you are. That's the real key to this.
That's great advice, Vinny. I alluded to a question earlier about Latinos. As you know, Hispanics are becoming a larger and larger voting bloc. It's important for the Republican Party, as it is for the Democratic Party, to get more. In my opinion, the Republican Party has failed in many areas in addressing the Latino voter, or really connecting with the Latino voter. And what are some suggestions? I mean, some candidates feel that they don't have to do any outreach in a Republican primary in Texas. I would say that they're wrong, but what's your suggestion for that? What would you do?
Well, I tell you, that's a great question, and I think where we've really done a disservice to Latino voters is we never talk to them until we want their vote. And then we talk to them in the most horrifying, scary terms we possibly can. And,
that's true.
And I think that's just wrong. And to me, like any other audience, you have to go and treat them with respect. We need to do. It's not a complicated outreach. We just have to do it, and we treat them with respect. Let's go listen to that audience, and then let's tell them where our common ground is. Which I'm not telling anybody that they would have to change their positions or change what they believe in, but I think let's go have a conversation with Latinos about what the candidate believes in. It's a respect issue. That's all it is.
I mean, I couldn't agree more.
I'm hoping this cycle we see more outreach to Latinos early instead of with negative ads at the end.
I think you just won Nelson's vote, boss.
That's right.
I did grow up in politics. I grew up in corporate advertising. So I've been working with different audiences for years, sure. Hispanics, youth, seniors, and it's not complicated. Go, listen, treat them with respect, and share some common ground.
So you think corporations have better ideas of how to outreach to minorities, a lot better than politicians?
Well, yeah, because they've always had a better motivation to do it. Right. That was a new audience for them, a new person to sell cars to, a new person to sell coats to. So that was a new audience. So they were very motivated to grow that customer base.
That's right.
Politics, it's the same thing. These are new voters that we can get. So there's no reason. Now, speaking as, the hardcore Republican that I am, a lot of people go, well, if we bring in Hispanics, that'll be all Democrat votes. And I disagree with that. I think Hispanics and conservatives share an enormous amount of common ground. Well, there are differences, but I think in terms of traditional family, small business, that's kind of social conservatism, I think there's a great deal of common ground. Republicans need to be in that space.
Perfect. Awesome.
Well, we know that you have a tight schedule and you have many votes to go for.
That's right.
And many candidates to talk with. But we really appreciate giving us the time, Vinny.
Great, thanks.
Vinny, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
And
All
live
right.
from the Green Room in Dallas, Texas,
That's right.
that was Vinny Minchillo. Thanks a million, boss.
Thank you.
Bye.
So there you heard it. Straight from the corners of Texas, right into your computer, your iPhone, and your living room. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
And do us a favor, send us an email on the email that you see on your screen, or follow us on Twitter, on each of the tweeters that you see on your screen as well. And let us know what we need to talk about. Who do you want us to interview? Who do you want to have next? Because the most important voice we want to promote in this show is your voice.
And whether that's a border mayor from El Paso, Texas, or whether that's a county commissioner from Cameron County in Brownsville area, we can do it on this show. Stay tuned.
See you soon.